Alrighty, welcome everyone. How are you doing? All right, so in this video, or I guess this live stream, whatever this is, we are going to cover how to find USDA 0% down properties. And if it looks like I'm still settling in, it's because I am. I like just timed this this tea like down to the second. So I literally just sat down in here and am still getting a touch settled here. So let me open up my screen. What we're going to do is something I don't think I've seen done before, because a lot of people just aren't familiar with USDA loans. And so I want to show you how you can actually take a look at the USDA map along with, alongside something like Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever you're looking at to find homes, and use that as a way to find homes that are not going to have a down payment if that's really what you're looking for. Okay, so let me put up my notes over here so I can take a look at what we got going on. Okay, and next time I promise I'm going to have my tea ready to go. And we're not going to be running into this mess here. Also, go ahead and let me know in the comments if you could give me like a thumbs up emoji, or let me know that you can hear me. That way I can make sure everything is coming through fine and there's no sound issues, there's no video issues. Just want to make sure we don't run into problems. That way, we don't go through this entire thing and then we find out later on you couldn't hear me at all. Okay, Mike says loud and clear. Wonderful. Carl, thank you for being here. 24 Writer, awesome. James Hicks, Ismara McKenzie, wonderful. Bones 805, Chowona, and these are fun names to say here. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're here. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. So one thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to prioritize questions that come into my cell number. Okay, so if you're not already on the live stream notification number, you can text #live to 937-358-6542. And then what's going to happen is I'll get texts that come in through here. So I can see Julie just texted in. She put in a little smiley face. And let's see who else texted in. Charlene texted in as well. So if you have questions, I'm going to be looking at my phone here for that. And I'm going to prioritize those questions as they come in. So what I want you to do right now, and I don't have this number. Let me see if I can put my number here on the screen for you. I want you to tell me the city or the state that you're looking at buying in. Let me put this in, 358-6542. How do I change the color? White. Add. There we go. Text me the city or the state that you're looking to buy in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a couple cities, states, and look at some USDA homes in those areas. So we can kind of help you out. I want to give a little bit better examples than just some fictitious ones. So go ahead and text in that number. Make sure you've texted #live in, or else it's not going to come through on my phone. Okay? Wonderful. Mike, good to see you here. Let's go ahead and jump into this. All right, so USDA homes. I just recently put out a video about USDA, and USDA is a 0% down option for rural areas. Now, rural doesn't mean that it's farmland. It's all down to the population size, okay? And it's a true 0% down. There's no like hidden strings attached. There's no gimmick to it, okay? However, it can be a tight box to fit into, all right? Most lenders aren't doing USDA loans unless you have a 640 credit score, which the minimum is actually 500. They also have a lower debt to income ratio than most other loans. And the property requirements can be a little bit more strict, along with the income limits that they have as well. So we'll cover all of that in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put my screen up here. Wonderful. And let me know if you can see my screen. Everything sounds good. Last time I put my screen up here, it like kept feeding back, and that was not fun for anybody. Awesome. So we have some cities coming in. We got Mike, John, Raisa, Melissa, Cameron, Carl, Denisha, Julie, Charlene. Wonderful. I'm going to pick some of those cities here in a sec. Here's a bit of what we're going to run through tonight. Okay. So first, there isn't a site with a list of USDA properties, which is kind of frustrating. right? It'd be really nice if you could go to something like USDAhomes.com and find homes. Like if it was just listed, here are the homes eligible for USDA. The problem is it just doesn't exist. So instead, we have to use two different sites and compare them side by side to see where these USDA homes are. Okay, and you'll see through here that there's a lot more that qualify for USDA than you probably think there are. So what we're going to do is we're going to open Zillow, or you can do your home shopping site of choice, and the eligibility map. Okay, and this link is in the description of this video. Okay, so we're going to compare these two side by side. So I'll do my city first, and then we'll pick some here from the text messages that come in. All right, so when you look at the link in the description, you're going to come to this page, all right? And there's a ton of text and it's super gross and ugly. But we're gonna click single family housing guaranteed. This is the type of loan that's gonna be offered through any bank, credit union, direct lender, broker. Every one of those lenders is gonna offer a USDA guaranteed loan. So we'll go ahead and accept this disclaimer here that just says they do their best to ensure accuracy and all that jazz. So what I want to do is I am going to scroll in to where we are located. So currently our office is in Dayton. It's actually closer to Vandalia up here. So our office, where I'm sitting at right now, is right about here. Okay, so you can see I'm in an ineligible area according to USDA. All right, now what's really interesting is Tip City, like a 10-minute drive down the road, is eligible for USDA. So what's really interesting about that is like I can live in Dayton, you know, the city. If I go 10 minutes down that way, it's actually a little bit urban. Dayton's not a huge city, but I can extend my commute by maybe 10, 20 minutes and be in a USDA eligible area. Right, and what you'll find is a lot of the areas that you might be looking in, they may be ineligible for USDA, but there's going to be a ton of surrounding areas that are eligible. So everywhere in here that is not shaded orange, we can purchase home USDA 0% down. So what I would do is if I know I'm kind of looking in this area, which most people are, they're looking in an area, unless you're just looking in like one specific school district, is we'll go ahead and search for Dayton. I probably should have said Dayton. Okay, showing Dayton, Ohio. Now what I want to do is take a look here at the map. And I want to remove the boundary. And so I'm going to go ahead and scroll in a little bit. And you see how we have these maps kind of laid out side by side. Okay, so I know Dayton just isn't going to qualify at all. Pretty much up halfway, just about the end of Vandalia, is where it begins to qualify, okay? So I can see somewhere around this range, all the way up to maybe just around the bend before the highway. So I can take a little draw, this little draw button, and I can just draw around here. Obviously exclude areas that you don't want to be in. You know, maybe if I don't want to be in West Milton, I don't have to draw anything around there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and apply. So from here, I have 59 homes that I can take a look at that most likely are going to qualify USDA. Now there's some that are on this line and we need to do a double check on that. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So let's take a look at our list. So all of these homes here qualify for USDA, right? We can purchase this home, $374,900. Let's see if this is a nice looking home or not. And I'll move my face out of the way. I'll put it here in the center. Yeah, this is a nice looking home, right? A lot of times when I talk to people about USDA, they say like, yeah, but who wants to buy a dump? I'm like, this isn't a dump. This is a nice looking house that we can get for literally 0% down. Now, really be careful about when you're looking at some home search sites like this, when you see this estimated payment, because if we just go off of this face value, we're going to get very different numbers than what it's actually going to cost monthly. So we have to actually adjust some of these numbers here. Normally Zillow defaults to 20% down. Obviously we're not doing 20% down. We're doing 0% down. So what we want to look at here is we'll bring this to 20%. So this changes our payment from $17.28 a month to, where are we at here? $23.39 per month. And someone said, can I make my face smaller? Yes, I can. Oh, I'm sorry, it was covering over that, wasn't it? There we go. So what I did here is I put this little drop-down arrow, and I changed our down payment, right? It was 20%, which made our payments $17.28. And if I bring this down to 0, which is what USDA would be, it's going to put us closer, $23.39. So really be careful here when you're taking a look at homes that you're not just going off of this generic estimated payment. This is going to be a really good best case scenario. Zillow does this almost as a way to try to entice you into contacting an agent, which gets you in their system and in their database and all that stuff. If you want to learn how to talk to an agent, I do have that past live stream talking about it, so you don't have to put all your data into Zillow's database so they can call you forever and ever and never stop calling you, which is what we don't want, okay? All these homes here qualify for USDA. Now, let's say that there's a property that's maybe on the edge, okay? A good example is, I can see USDA doesn't qualify right here above the bend of this highway. And I imagine this property probably doesn't qualify USDA. But since it's on the line, it's hard to guess exactly if it does or it doesn't. So what I can do is I can just copy this address, and then I can paste it in over here, okay? Yeah, and Jeremy brought up a good point too. The payment on Zillow does show normal conventional private mortgage insurance, not USDA's cost. USDA is actually going to have normally a cheaper mortgage insurance than conventional will. So this is a good example. Even in our circle, we kind of eyed it, we took a guess, but we could see here on the edge that this property doesn't qualify. It's not in an eligible area. So you can see how, literally probably like, what would this be? Maybe 2 minutes down the road. It's just this really hard line that USDA has. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if that makes sense, if we're tracking, or if there's anything else that I need to clear up there. And then I'm going to jump into the text and see, we're going to run through some examples in some of your own states. Okie dokie. So Denisha said Winchester, California. Let's take a look. Winchester, California. Okay. Winchester, CA. The only thing that sucks about this USDA site is it doesn't do, it almost needs a exact address. It almost doesn't let you type in a city, which is super frustrating. So I need to scroll out here and see exactly where Winchester is. Let's see, right above San Diego. Let's see if I'm getting close. There we are. Cool, so it almost looks like, see how nice it would be to actually have a property search where you could actually see these homes without trying to do this map thing. So if I'm taking a look at Winchester, it looks like pretty much all of Winchester qualifies for USDA. Let me run in one that's here on the line. This one is here on the line. Oh, that's not a home. What in the world is Zillow showing us? Let's take off some of these extra things. By agents. Let's take off our price stuff. Let's take off all this extra. I just want to see houses right now. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in this address. There's one. There's a good example of all of this area of Winchester qualifies, even next to this lake or reservoir. But right here does not qualify. So it can be really finicky. You kind of have to be careful that you're not just eyeballing that map a little bit, that you're actually looking in, you can use kind of the map to eyeball things in a general sense, but double check when you put in that address. What's really strange is you even have some of these sections that are, I don't even know if these are like habitable areas, but maybe it almost looks like there might be some mountains or some terrain going on here. So maybe you can't even put a home on some of these little gaps, which I'm guessing is probably the case. Maybe you know a little bit better about that area than I do. But all the rest of Winchester qualifies, right? This home up here, there we go, located in an eligible area. Now the thing that we have to be careful of, and this is, good Lord, $600 for this? You guys in California got got a messed up housing market. Is that home tilted? Or is the picture just tilted? And you got a camper. Ooh. I don't know that I'd want to pay $600 for that. But something that we have to be careful of with USDA is there also is an income limit. Okay, so if we go to income eligibility, it's going to have us pick where we're at. So we're going to say California. Let's see, what county is Winchester in? Riverside. Okay, so we'll look at Riverside, and let's just say that we're a single person. We're going to see what the income limit is here. Okay, so we're going to say no disabled people, no one, it's just going to be ourselves. So we'll click next. For ourselves here, we're going to say 80,000. And it really doesn't matter what you're going to put in there. It's going to show you, oh, I guess that was monthly. Oops. Let's go back. It really doesn't matter what you put in here. It's going to show you the income limit anyway, but this is kind of their tool that's going to help you look through this a little bit more. So we can see, if we make it annual household income of 120,000, we're not going to be able to qualify. And, it's going to be remarkably difficult to purchase a $600,000 house with only $120,000 in household income. So this is where USDA kind of has this catch-22. I imagine in California it's going to be difficult to purchase with USDA. Whereas compared to around here, we saw some of those homes were like 200,000, even 300,000 we can probably qualify for without hitting the income limit. So we can see that, the guaranteed program, the maximum limit is $90,700. And the chances of us, qualifying for a $600,000 house with $90,000 is just very, very slim. I don't want to say impossible, but it'd be extremely difficult to do so. So let's take a look at another one. John said Arlington, Texas. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we're right to the right side of Fort Worth. Ooh, this looks like a complete no-go. If I'm looking at this correctly. We have Arlington goes all the way up. And all the way down. Yeah. None of Arlington would qualify for USDA, unfortunately. But this is a good example of, I don't know all these areas super well, so I have to kind of do some research as we go. But maybe we're looking in Arlington, okay? We know that maybe our work is here, all right? Or maybe our work is in Fort Worth or something like that. We could explore these outside areas, all right? Now, to go from Arlington all the way down here is a pretty big stretch, all right? So it might not work for everybody, but for example, the first example I showed, living in Dayton is 10 minutes away. You could do a 20-minute commute and live in a USDA eligible area. So just for fun, let me see how far away. I'm trying to find something a little bit closer. Arlington's like right stuck in the middle. James said Fort Worth might have some northeast of the city. Let's see what that looks like. Northeast is like all non-USDA, unfortunately. Let's see how close is Benbrook to Fort Worth? Oh, you said west, northwest. I'll take a look at northwest here in a second. Benbrook, Texas. Now I know Benbrook doesn't qualify, but we're going to assume just a little bit outside of this area here to Fort Worth. Oh, okay. 20 minutes, right, to go from Fort Worth to Benbrook. Let's see if we went from Arlington. You know, Arlington's where we want to live ideally, but if we really need to do that 0% down, you know, how much of a commute are we willing to do to get that 0%? So right past Mansfield is where we can qualify. And what is all this green? Is this like a Google doesn't really tell me what that is. So, you know, we could go, if we wanted to live right in the middle of Arlington, but, you know, maybe we can't afford the down payment, or we just need something in its place, we could look at possibly doing a 25-minute commute if we were doing that. Yeah, and you can move the pins in Google Maps. It makes it super nice to kind of see what this estimate looks like here. And so this is something that we could do. Maybe we build up some equity in this home, and then within maybe 3 years, we can sell it, have the equity, and now we can go live exactly where we want to because we have some more money for a down payment. So, you know, all of this is just kind of us creatively finding steps, ways that we can get what we want, even if, you know, if we can't get it right now, we don't want to throw in the towel. We want to start saying, like, what are some things that we can do instead? How can we get to a place where it's going to work for us if it doesn't work right now? All right, just making sense? Let me know. Let me know in the comments if this is making sense, if this is clicking. If there's anything I'm missing here, I want to make sure that that I cover that. Julie has an exact address. Let's take a look at this exact address. 41543 Road. What's H2? Highway 25, I'm guessing. Mancos. Hey, there we go. That's in an eligible area. Awesome. Oh, and this is like, there's almost not an ineligible area in sight. This must be out. Yeah, this is out by some national forests. So yeah, this is all USDA. Again, some of these more expensive areas you're going to run into, you got to be careful of your income limits. So just because it is an eligible area doesn't mean you can still purchase that home. Okay. So let me see if we can take a look at some other ones here. James, you asked Denver. Let's take a look at Denver. Oops. Too far. So Denver is going to be one, doesn't qualify. Basically, any bigger city, best guess is going to say, probably doesn't qualify. But that's okay. We can kind of extend our commute. So Denver, pretty much none of that qualifies. However, maybe Evergreen is an option. Let me see if that's even like a feasible commute. And keep in mind, like, I don't know any of these areas. You know, I'm not familiar with Evergreen. So maybe Evergreen is a terrible city to live in. I don't know. It's really, really difficult to say. But this is just kind of more showing the example of it. And you're welcome to kind of explore with the cities that you can see. You know, maybe, you know, there's maybe right north of Lafayette is going to be a lot better to purchase than Evergreen. But this is more for the example. 40 minutes starts getting into that territory where it's like, oh, gosh, I don't know that I want to drive 40 minutes to work. But maybe it's something that we need to do. Let's see here. Cool. So here's Evergreen. And, ooh, this is where we're going to run into a huge issue. Good Lord. James, I hope you're buying this one, man. This is the one. This is not going to qualify at USDA. But wow. That is a gorgeous home. Crazy. Okay. I got a little distracted here. The big issue that you're going to run into, again, is it was like $12 million, is the income limit. And this is because USDA doesn't actually have a loan limit. Most loans do. Most loans say you can't get a loan above X amount of dollars. But instead what they do is they say you can't make above X amount of dollars. And so it's almost like, in a way it's like a roundabout to do a loan limit. Because, you're not going to be able to purchase a $12 million home and still be within the income limit, right? Because the income limit, I'm guessing, for around this area is probably around 90,000, and that's household. Okay, it's not just you. It's not just who's on the loan. It's everybody in your household above 18. All right, so let's see here. Most of these are probably going to be really, really difficult to be able to qualify for. 450 might be possible depending on our debt to income ratio. I would hate to suggest this one because this quite literally is a shack. Is this a home? Does this technically count as a home? And it looks like a lot of wood boards getting pieced together. I don't know if we want to classify that one. But let's say this one, for example. Let's kind of double check that this works. 450 might be possible, USDA. I do want to take, okay, it is eligible here. And I will do a question answer here at the end after we walk through this for just a little bit more. Okay, 450. This is a nice looking home. It's got this cool little sun area. Got some nice woodwork. It's in an eligible area. Now, the big question is, what kind of income do we need? Why did I put Ohio? Let's go to Colorado. And Denver. And again, this stuff doesn't super matter too much if you're just wanting to take a look at what the limit is, but you can kind of run through this quiz if you want to get a more refined view of what this is going to look like. Okay, so income limit here is $112,850. So I put in 60, which obviously is below that. 112, we could actually afford a $450,000 house if we didn't have any debt with $112,000 income, okay? And again, this is household income. You're probably gonna be in a really tight budget if that's the case, right? If your home purchase price is 4 times your annual income, you're probably gonna be running into some tight issues with your budget there. So something to keep in mind too is like, this is only the income limit when you get the loan. It doesn't have to always stay there. So, if you get a raise or something like that, USDA doesn't continue to check your income. It's only at the time that you purchase here, okay? Let's do one more, and then we're gonna open this up into Q&A. Let me make sure income eligibility. Actually, you know what? I forgot that something we can do here that I want to talk about is 0% down versus actually putting down a down payment. A lot of times we don't consider, what the implications are of doing 0% down. So let's do a comparison. So I'm going to load up this calculator here. Now, what I'm using is a tool that unfortunately you won't be able to have access to. Okay, this is a tool that I believe only lenders can sign up for. I'll just put in some demo information. 30,000. So what I'm actually doing with this Calm Buying Planner, if you've heard me talk about it, is creating something like this for you, where you can put in different loans and compare them, and make it really easy for you to see, examples of what would happen if I did 0% down, what would happen if I did 5% down, and compare those side by side. So I'll let you know when that's out. You can text #waitlist to my phone number, and it will put you on that list when that becomes available here. So I'm going to put in some demo stuff. Let's say a $300,000 property. We'll put in sample taxes. Let's compare a conventional loan at 3% down versus a USDA loan. So we'll say conventional will put us at a 2.875% rate. We're going to say no points. We're going to put in basic mortgage insurance, and we're not going to compare closing costs right now, because closing costs are going to be very similar to USDA, right? Because closing costs can be the exact same across different loans, because closing costs are taxes, title, recording fees, insurance, things like that, things that the lender doesn't charge. So 3% down conventional versus USDA at 0 down. Okay, we'll do 30-year USDA. We can see our mortgage insurance gets added in here, right? So on a $300,000 property with 0% down, USDA charges $3,000 in mortgage insurance up front. They call this a funding fee. It's actually added to the loan amount. So even though we're purchasing a $300,000 house, we're taking a $303,000 loan, okay? So we'll update this, and we will compare the two of these. So we can see that the conventional payment is actually just a touch higher, and that's largely due to the mortgage insurance between both of these loans here, okay? Even though the principal and interest that we're paying is higher on USDA because we're taking a higher loan amount, the total payment is actually just a touch lower, nothing crazy, it's $86, because the mortgage insurance is so much cheaper on USDA, okay? So this here shows us the lowest cost loan. So if we take a look over, let's take a look over the whole term, 30 years. This is going to show us the cheapest loan option depending on the year that we're in the home, because loans don't have the same cost throughout the entire term. They change in their cost because the costs accelerate differently based on interest rates and mortgage insurance and things like that. So what's really interesting is in the first 2 years, and let's kind of zoom into that. In the first 2 years, conventional is our cheapest option. And the main reason why is because our cost is lower here, right? This is putting in this funding fee, because if we sold a year from now, we still have to pay that funding fee because it's included in our loan amount. So it's not until it looks like almost 2.5, where that funding fee starts to cancel out along with the cost savings that we're getting with USDA. Okay, now if we scrolled out just a touch, not just a touch, let's go over the whole thing. We can see what's happening here is conventional is increasing because of the mortgage insurance. And then when we hit that 20% equity, it drops off. And that's when it becomes a little bit cheaper. And that crossover is in just after year 14. So if we were going to be in the home for this period of time, USDA is the better option, right? And I would say even in here, you're probably not going to sell your home within the first 2 years. So most likely what's going to be best is if you're going to be in the home for maybe 14 years or less, USDA is still going to be a solid option here for you, okay? Now, something else we have to keep in mind is usually USDA is going to have a slightly lower rate. So let's try that here and see what that does to our comparison. Yeah, so that completely eliminates conventional being a better option. So even though we have a higher loan amount and we included that increased upfront mortgage insurance cost, USDA is still a cheaper option even though we're doing 0% down here, okay? Another thing that we can also look at is, not only are we getting the cost savings here, right? So over a 10-year period, which is the average. We can see average residency in a home. Conventional is $15,000 more expensive. What's also really interesting is we can compare the down payment if we were to invest that instead of putting it into the home. So what I can do, let's see our investment calculator here. So our down payment on conventional was 3%, so $9,000. If we did an assumed rate of return of 7%, which is what we're going to see as an average through traditional equities like tracking an index fund, S&P 500, NASDAQ, things like that, and we looked at this over, let's do a period of 10 years. We can see we're going to gain an interest of $8,700. So kind of what would be happening with the strategy is instead of doing a down payment, we extend our commute a little bit and then be able to invest that difference in something other than just the mortgage itself. Okay, so there's tons of things that you can do with your money, and it can get a little overwhelming, I understand. But I think that the benefit is really just trying to see how can we make our money do the most possible with where we're at right now. Because one loan might not work for us, and so if that's the case, we need to figure out what can we do somewhere else to make the most of our unique situation. And then one more thing, because somebody did ask me if I can do this versus VA. Let's look at USDA, conventional, and let's do VA in there as well. VA is going to run a very similar rate to USDA. I'm sorry, I blanked there for a second. Or you could do Tesla call options. That's another option. Justin, thanks for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate it. Let's see, VA. So the main thing that's going to be different about VA, you're going to run into a similar interest rate, but your mortgage insurance is going to change. VA has 0 monthly mortgage insurance, but their upfront mortgage insurance is a lot more expensive. It's running closer to 2.3%. So we also have to keep in mind, to qualify for VA, you have to be a veteran. So that for most people, it's going to disqualify them from VA, but we'll take a look at what this could look like here. So VA, cheaper monthly payment, again, because we don't have mortgage insurance there. Now the chart's getting messy. So we can kind of ignore this because, most people are going to be in the home longer than a year. So this is kind of, even though it's technically the cheapest option, it's really irrelevant to us, right? Because, in 1 year, the cost difference is, it's basically the cost of that funding fee here. So let's look at maybe a more realistic range, maybe 15. Okay, and our better short-term option is USDA. Better long-term option is VA. And this crossover here is where you're seeing the benefit of 0 mortgage insurance monthly finally being able to overtake the expense of the higher upfront mortgage insurance cost. All right, and if we looked at this over 30 years, VA is a much cheaper option, again, because we weren't paying mortgage insurance at all. So over 30 years, VA is, beats both USDA and conventional by almost $30,000 each. Okay, so VA is a really fantastic option, even if you are paying that funding fee up front. Okay, and just for fun, maybe I'll throw in a FHA loan in here. FHA, 3.5 down. Our monthly mortgage insurance on FHA is going to be higher than USDA by almost double. Actually, it is more than double. And then upfront mortgage insurance is 1.75% of the loan amount in here. And we'll update this loan. We'll calculate. And we can see just how expensive FHA is. Okay, over the long term. You can see FHA tracks pretty close with conventional. The interesting thing about FHA is even though you have mortgage insurance, you have that lower interest rate that helps keep it pretty on track with conventional until conventional mortgage insurance goes away. And then that's when we start to see conventional be a much better option long term. Okay, so long story short, VA in these scenarios, cheapest option. Second cheapest option is USDA. Third cheapest is conventional. fourth, which is the most expensive, is FHA. And if we kept that over the entire term, we're going to be paying almost $70,000 more in interest compared to VA, and almost $37,000 more compared to conventional. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Hopefully, didn't get too I hope we didn't get too in the weeds on these comparisons here. Some people are asking about condos. FHA does condos. They do have to be on a condo approved list, so you can look up FHA condo list and search for the condo here. It does have to be approved by FHA. Okay. Let me put my face back here on the screen. Wonderful. Man, I can't believe we've already been here for 45 minutes. Dang. Well, if you're not bored of me yet. Cool, so we're going to open this up to a question and answer here. I don't know why I look like, looks like my face is red and on fire. Not sure why. Let me close out some of these screens. Make sure I have everything up. Cool. So we're going to run through a question and answer. I'm going to try to circle back through the comments here and see if there's some stuff that I missed. So you're welcome to ask any questions that you'd like to. Okay, I'm going to check some of these texts as well. And for those of you who are kind of new to the texting thing, so Fabian said time flies when you're having fun. For those of you who are a little bit new to the texting thing, so I do have kind of a business number that I opened up here that you can see. You can see here. Is it gonna focus? You can see it says live stream. There we go. And so basically, if you text in #live to my phone number, which is maybe I should put it back up on the screen. There we go. If you text #live, what it's going to do is I'll be able to send you a reminder when we go live next, if you'd like to join. And it's going to throw you into this live stream group. And you're not going to text with everybody. No one else is going to see your number except for me. But come on. So I can actually see questions that you put in during the live stream. And you're welcome to ask me questions outside the live stream too, but this is going to help me kind of take a look at what some of you are asking for here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in here. Cool, so Zachary, I just saw your #live come in. Awesome. Okay, so Julie asked, I'm the only person in my household because my husband and I live separately. We want to file taxes jointly. I want to buy the house in my name only. How will that work? So you can purchase the home in your name only. It's going to depend on some of the dower rules that you have in your state. And so dower rules are just how is ownership shared amongst couples. So for instance, in Ohio, we're a dower state. And what that means is if I was married and I signed to purchase a home, technically my spouse has to do one of two things. They either have to sign to purchase with me, or they have to sign to release dower rights, which means they don't have ownership in the home anymore. And this is going to depend again on what dower rights look like in your state. You can talk to a title company or a realtor to learn more about that. I want to know why my face looks why I look so pink. So what you would do in Ohio, for instance, if you just wanted to be on the title of the home, you get the loan by yourself, and then you would have the lender prepare documents for you so that your spouse would sign off on their dower rights. And so they would have to come to the closing or virtual, however it's being done with COVID, and actually sign about 2 lines through the package, the closing package, that would say, I release my rights to this home even though we're married. Is my heat's not turned up. I think it's just something to do with my with the lighting in here. I'm recording on there we go, it's a little better. I'm recording on a webcam, and it does it just makes everything look gross. Maybe this is the way my skin actually looks. Danny, you asked about new construction townhome versus single family appreciation. So appreciation, you're most likely going to find, um, it's really hard to say kind of like based on property type, but things with land are going to tend to appreciate more than things without land. So think of something like a condo probably is going to have a harder time appreciating than something with land on it, because land tends to be a little bit more desirable. Now, this isn't always true, right? There are condos downtown that have appreciated like crazy. I know like a couple years ago they were selling for 300, now they're selling close to like 450. Okay, so that's crazy appreciation on a condo, but it's because the city itself is expanding. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Now, as far as like new construction, this is mainly going to depend on how well is that area being developed and growing, because appreciation almost 90% has to do with the area itself, right? Everyone talks about the dumb thing with real estate is location, location, location. It always, or for the most part, tends to deal with what's going on in the area, not just the property type itself. So it'd be good to talk with a realtor about what's going on in that market. How are things appreciating, especially specific to maybe a new construction development, to see what some of that appreciation would look like. Is there any prepayment penalty with USDA loan, or is that up to a lender? So most of the time you're not going to run into a prepayment penalty with USDA loan. I don't believe it's in guidelines that you can't have one. I just don't know any lender who's doing prepayment penalties right now. They're technically considered risky features to a loan, and nobody's really doing them right now, or else out of fear of getting in some hot water, because prepayment penalties were more common before the housing crash, and nobody really wants to go back to that. If I plan to purchase a home this winter when I move, when should I apply for a USDA loan? Really, I would apply now. There's no harm in applying now, and then you normally have like 90 days for your approval to still be valid. Okay. My software is doing some weird stuff right now. You normally have 90 days for that to be valid, but if that expires, that's okay. I don't think you need to get another pre-approval. I don't think that always needs to be active. As long as there's not some huge crazy change in your income, your employment, your assets, your credit, then you'll be fine to just go with that one pre-approval. But getting approved earlier is going to be better. That way you can see your numbers, you're at a more comfortable pace. You don't feel like you're rushed into anything. Zach asked, you showed 2.5% interest for USDA on the stream. What credit score do you think would get that? So I think that you'd want to have a better credit score to kind of see around that range. I would estimate you're probably going to want to you want to definitely be somewhere within that 740 plus range. Now, something to keep in mind too is that when lenders look at interest rates, they don't just see one, right? Even though the lender might show you one interest rate, there's actually options. So ask the lender, if they just give you one interest rate, to show you a list of rates and the costs that they have associated with them. Because often what can happen, right, if I go and price out a loan with a lender, it might say, I'm trying to think of a way to like explain this clearly. It might show me a list of rates. It might say like 3%, 2.875, 2.75, 2.625, 2.5, and have a cost with each of those as well. And so the lowest cost might seem to be 2.875. But if I actually go down through the costs, it might only take me $300 to purchase a 2.5% rate. I'll do that. That's a great deal, because it's not always like a linear progression down with the rates and costs. Sometimes it is, But some lenders purchase bonds differently. I know we're kind of getting a little deep into how the economics of it work. But all these coupons, these bond coupons, are being purchased differently. So sometimes they have different costs associated with them that can be a lot better than some of the higher interest rate bonds. So long story short, ask your lender for a list of rates and the costs associated with them instead of just taking the one rate at face value and accepting it, because they may miss something. Because it's really easy to just look through, for instance, like a lot of lenders will kind of put everything in red that has a cost to it. And so it can be really easy for me to look and be like, oh, the lowest cost is 2.75. When in reality, it would only cost them $500 to get a 2.5. That should be something that I present to the client. Maybe they don't want to pay $500, but it should be something worth showing, okay? And it's not always going to work that way, right? Going down to a 2.5 for your situation might cost a lot more money than that. Carl, you asked, or you said, I'm unemployed and my wife works full-time. I do get unemployment. How does that work for USDA? So if you are currently on unemployment, unfortunately, you do need to be employed to be able to be on a loan, okay? Or at least have your income used on a loan, all right? So being on an unemployment isn't going to hurt you once you are employed and look to get a loan, but a lender can't use unemployment as income, unfortunately. Allison, you said, I'm looking in Southern PA and was told there's not many options, and the USDA site isn't accurate by my realtor. How do I say this? How do I say this nicely without insulting a realtor? I mean, it's the USDA site. It 100% is accurate. It's used by underwriters. That is the USDA site is the only true source of what homes are eligible and what aren't. That's where underwriters look to verify property. So it 100% is accurate. Okay, just looking through some text here, making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, Noah, you said, so our parents are moving in with us to the home we're looking to buy. Both are retiring and with less income when they move in next year. Is it bad to use their current income in a loan application? No, not at all. Nothing bad about that. You would need to include all the other stuff in there as well, like their credit, their debts, things like that's gonna have to be included in the debt to income ratio. But no, that's perfectly fine. You can use that income there as long as they're comfortable with it and willing to sign off, and they understand they also have obligation to the mortgage. They're going to be on the title of the home as well. So as long as they're comfortable with that, no issue there at all. Does USDA have targeted areas as well, federal economic opportunity zones, with higher income limits for certain areas, or is that only for other types of loans? Not that I am familiar with it. USDA tends to not really operate in that same way, and I'm not entirely sure that you can do, or if there are federal economic opportunity zones for like residential loans. I know you can get that more on the commercial side, but I'm not familiar with it on the residential side. Now, USDA income limits do change with the area, right? Like around here, it tends to be somewhere around 88,000. I know when we went through some of those examples, I think it was Colorado that was up to 120,000, and then I know we looked at one other that was like an income limit of 90. So they do change their income limit based on the area. It tends to go off of, I believe it's 80% area median income is where they get that number from. USDA includes income from adults living in the household. How does USDA know who lives in the house? It's really self-reported, so nobody's going to come out and check. However, I would never suggest you commit mortgage fraud because like it tends to be a big deal. They tend to not like that too much, and I'm sure it would involve some amount of jail time. So, I personally, I can't make tea in jail, right? Well, maybe can you? I don't know if you can make tea in jail. So if that's the case, then I'm certainly out. Oh, okay, so you said they have some of those zones for Virginia-specific housing programs. Yeah, and that might be more of a local thing, specific to states or specific to like municipalities. Not, but it's not anything that I'm familiar with on like an actual like federal loan program level. Allison asked, we're looking to buy a home closer to the end of this year. At what point would you advise pre-qualifying? So if you're looking at the end of this year, you have quite a bit of time. I would probably start looking at talking to somebody maybe about 2 months before you're ready to purchase. The fact that you're on here watching this video asking questions, tells me you probably like to plan ahead a little bit, especially if you're looking at purchasing in 12 months. So I think maybe 2 months before would probably be good to just generally reach out to some people, maybe get some preliminary numbers. You don't have to go through the whole process, but just start those relationships with people, get a feel for what's going on, see if there's anything you need to work on with your credit or things like that. That should give you a good amount of time to get comfortable with those numbers. And then as far as like actually moving forward with it, then maybe probably closer to maybe a month before you're actually seriously looking at shopping for homes, getting pre-approved, do the whole process, submit documents and all that stuff. That way you can get a good head start, get comfortable with those numbers without rushing into things too much. Yeah, Mike said that tea in jail, you probably can make it, but you probably don't want to drink it. I think that would be a fair assumption to say. I think I'm gonna just try to live the rest of my life with the assumption that I don't want to go to jail. It's probably a good ethical standard, even worst case scenario. Should I expect a loan estimate that I see on the CFPB site from every lender when interviewing lenders? I want to clearly see section A, B, and J fees. So you technically aren't, a lender is not legally required to give you a loan estimate unless they have pretty much all your information and a property address. Now, you can request a loan estimate at any point in time. They can give you a TBD loan estimate, right? To be determined property address loan estimate. It's perfectly fine. If a lender says, no, we're not going to give that to you, then you just pull in Ariana Grande, say thank you, next, and move on to somebody else who will, okay? Because whenever we ask for information from a lender and then they tend to back away, or they don't, they act like they shouldn't have to give that information to us. It's like, well, now we've already created a relationship that's like, has some conflict. Like, why would we work together in the future? So you can ask for it from lenders. Now, you don't need it. Okay, a loan estimate isn't necessary all the time. You can still get a quote and still make an effective decision without it being on a loan estimate piece of paper, right? But if your lender is giving you a quote that is half the information that you need, which it tends to be, then you might need to ask for a loan estimate, right? So like when we give quotes here, they're fully laid out, and they're actually laid out better than the structure of a loan estimate, because a loan estimate is a really confusing document. So if we were going to turn it into a loan estimate, it's literally the same numbers. But your lender might give you half information on the quote that you need, and the loan estimate forces them to share all the information that you need. Oh yeah, and you brought up a good point. So you said, I asked because my cousin was getting the runaround from lenders who only want to give their confusing proprietary estimates. And that can be one of the hard things about comparing loan offers is they can be on different documents. And every lender tends to have different, looking documents. And it can be difficult to compare when, this monthly payment's over here and this one's over here and this cost is here and this one's up there. When it's loan estimates are a document that everybody uses and that you can compare those side by side. Would lenders be concerned about a car loan being paid off 1 to 2 months before applying for a home loan, selling the vehicle, and paying off the auto loan? No, won't be a concern at all. I would just expect there to be, probably expect a small hit to your credit score because you closed the credit account. So it happens all the time. Your credit's going to go back up. It just might take a few months before that ends up happening. You said, now I know you definitely got my text. Yes, I did. I replied to all the texts that come in and pretty much all the comments. I'm going to try to keep that up as long as I can. As the channel ends up growing, I'm sure there's going to be a point where it's just going to be like physically impossible for me to reply. But I do see all the texts that come in here. I do reply to so far all of them. Obviously I'm going to have to catch up after the live stream. But yeah, I do get your texts here that come in. Do I apply for single family guaranteed or direct? So I'm not super familiar with direct, but direct tends to be for a lot lower income, where single family guaranteed is for low to moderate. So you could look up the USDA direct guidelines. Now, direct, I've not heard good experiences from because you're dealing with USDA directly. USDA is slow. They're a government-run organization, so you're not going to expect super quick speed through the process. But guaranteed's probably going to be your better option if you can qualify for it. If you can't qualify for it, then I would maybe look at going with direct. Have you ever heard of using down payment assistance to cover closing costs on a USDA loan? I have not. It's going to be dependent on the closing cost program that would be local, if they would actually partner with the USDA to make that happen. Most of the time, you're going to find down payment assistance on FHA loans. Cassandra, you said, I think interest rates are expected to remain low for the next couple of years, so you're probably better off not rushing to buy. Yeah, what it looks like for the most part is that interest rates are going to continue to decrease. Now, how is that happening? Who's controlling this? Basically, what's happening is, kind of maybe quick crash course economics for the mortgage world. Is there's not like one number that somebody can adjust. Somebody can't just go to a computer and type in like, let's lower interest rates and things drop. Okay. What ends up happening is your mortgage, like 90+% of people's mortgages, are packaged up into a security called a mortgage-backed security and then sold on the secondary market. And most of the time you don't even know this happens, right? Because you might have the same lender who's still collecting your money, right? Lender A might have originated your loan and you're still paying lender A 10 years later, but the actual loan itself might be grouped together in this bond called a mortgage-backed security and had been sold several times on a secondary market to investors, okay? And this is how lenders get more money to be able to lend out to more people. Otherwise, it'd be like, where are these lenders getting all this money from to, unlimited amount of times lend out money to people? So the way that interest rates get low is that the Federal Reserve actually purchases mortgage-backed securities. Okay, so when the Federal Reserve purchases mortgage-backed securities, and they've actually committed for the next 2 years to continue purchasing to keep interest rates low. I think they've committed to doing, they've committed to doing $40 billion a month in purchasing, and the past couple months have been closer to the $100 billion per month. But when they purchase these mortgage-backed securities, if we go with supply and demand, the more purchasing that happens, the higher the price rises. Same thing that's happening with our housing market. A lot of people are purchasing, so home prices are rising. When you have the US government purchasing a ton of mortgage-backed securities, the price rises. And the way bonds work is they have an inverse relationship with their price and their rate. So when the price rises, the rate decreases. So effectively, when the Federal Reserve purchases mortgage-backed securities, the interest rate's lower. So nobody can just go in and like change the interest rate itself. But the government can do things to kind of stimulate the economy to keep interest rates lower. So all that to say, the government has been committed. They've, in their Fed meetings, have said, hey, we're going to purchase mortgage-backed securities to keep interest rates low so that we don't see this like credit log jam happening within the next couple of years, along with the recession that we're already in because of COVID. So I would anticipate rates are going to remain low and maybe trickle down just a little bit more. I don't expect that we're going to see anything crazy happening. I highly doubt we're going to get into an average of like 1%. I think we're going to stay around the 2 to 3% range over the next couple of years. Yeah, Donald, you brought up people invest in those securities. Yeah, so you can purchase mortgage-backed securities if you want right now. You can go purchase other people's loans, other people's mortgages. You can go, you can get on, Schwab or Robinhood or whatever and purchase other people's mortgages. And that's just kind of how the whole economy takes this big full circle. That's where all this money is coming from. As lenders give it out, sell it so that they can get more money coming in there. So you asked, why is it so hard for nurses to get a home loan? I'm not entirely sure. If you could clarify, like maybe the challenge that you're running into, because for nurses in particular, there's nothing wrong, nothing about nurses that would make it difficult to qualify for a home loan. I'm trying to think through. If you could clarify a little bit, what's the like actual problem that you're running into, then I might be able to add just a little bit of insight here. Al Bunny, you said we can run mortgage credit scores with multiple lenders on the same day and it counts as only one hard pull, or better to run with one lender once and tell next lender to use that number. So to answer your first question, you have a 45-day window where you can get your credit pulled unlimited amount of times. So it has to be the same type of pull. It has to be like a mortgage pull. Okay, so unlimited mortgage pulls over a 45-day window only count as one hard inquiry. Okay. So you can't do a mortgage and an auto loan and a credit card and all that stuff. Those would be independent inquiries, but unlimited mortgage pulls in a 45-day window. And then as far as like lenders sharing it with the other, lenders can't share credit report stuff. Okay, like you could get it pulled with one lender and then tell another lender that number, but that is not going to be an actual pre-approval with that lender. A lender has to actually pull your credit to be able to give you a pre-approval. Okay, they can't just use the number. The credit involves the number plus all the other stuff with it. And lenders can't share credit reports with each other. It's a big, big deal. There's a lot of rules around who can see credit report information. And actually, it gets as seemingly insane as like if I pull somebody's credit, I can't show them the credit report that I see. It's not allowed. I can't give them a copy of their credit report. They can request one from that credit report providing company, but I cannot share that with a person. And the main reason why is because you involve risk of fraud when that ends up happening, because there's so much information that gets pulled from a credit report. We can see not only the score, we can see all types of loan accounts, we can see socials, date of birth, we can see addresses. Anything someone would need to take your information is right on a credit report. So lenders cannot share that. They can't give it even to people who they pull their credit for. That's going to have to be requested individually from you. Okay, so you said I'm an agency nurse, so my schedule is never the same, but at least 40 hours a week. If you're getting 40 hours a week, if your schedule's kind of all over the place, that's not an issue. The only issue comes in is if your income is fluctuating in different ways. So if your income is what would be seen as unstable, then a lender wants to see a longer history of that income. And primarily this is going to be 1 to 2 years if it's really unstable. So maybe you're working 40 hours, but possibly they're at different pay rates, different pay schedules. And if that's the case, then that might be where the underwriter's flagging income that's looking more inconsistent than just a specific hourly pay rate at 40 hours a week. So if that's the case, then a longer period of employment is going to be needed at a specific income level to be able to help you qualify. So that might be some of the issue that you're running into there. Why do student loans hurt you when applying for a loan? I was told it brings my approval amount down. So student loans, are no different than any other debt. For the most part, right? Like the monthly payment is going to be calculated into your debt to income ratio. So anytime we add monthly debt, it's going to drop the amount that we can qualify for, right? Any type of debt monthly is going to it's going to increase our debt to income ratio, which means it drops the amount that we can get approved for. Now, student loans are weird because you might be on like an income-based repayment plan. And if that's the case, then conventional loans are going to be your best option here. Okay, conventional and VA loans are the only types of loans that allow income-based repayment. So for instance, if you have, let's say we have student loans, and let's say our student loans are $30,000. Okay, and if you're a doctor, I'm so sorry that your looks probably closer to like 300,000. But let's say ours is 30,000 a month, or $30,000 total. Okay, if we're on an income-based repayment plan, maybe we're only paying $100 a month. If that's the case, and we use a conventional loan, we can use or lawyers, $100 a month in our debt to income ratio. Okay. However, if we have to use something like an FHA loan or a USDA loan, then we have to use 1% of the balance as our debt to income ratio. Okay, so we now, instead of having to show $100 a month, even though that's what we've been paying, our student loan monthly debt and our debt to income ratio is going to have to be $300 per month. Okay, 1% of our outstanding balance. So that's where it decreases the amount that we can get approved for. So if you are on an income-based repayment plan, then conventional really is going to be your best option. If you're a veteran, go VA. But something like FHA is where you're going to run into trouble, especially if you have really high student loans. If you're getting up there into like $50,000 student loans, that's a $500 a month payment. That's going to tremendously take down how much you can qualify for. Because if we traded that $500 in debt for $500 extra in a housing payment, that's going to change significantly how much home price we could purchase or get approved for. Can lenders share the score with me? Yes, lenders can share the score with you, and they can talk with you about the details. They can talk about, like, here's this credit account, I saw missed payment here, this one has this percent of utilization. They just can't actually share their report, the full report with you. But yeah, they can talk through it with you. That's no problem at all. They mainly just don't want the exchanging of the report. Otherwise, it could get into wrong hands, and then that's when they run into liability issues there. Okay, so specifically in Florida, would there be a problem moving from another state, in my case, Illinois, being that I wouldn't have employment, but the property would be a rental property that I would be living in? I'm a little confused on rental property that I would be living in. So is it like fully rental, or like how is it have multiple units? If you can kind of clarify a little bit, I might be able to help a little bit. I'm just a little confused on if you're living in it and also renting it out at the same time. I hope you're not, maybe you have like a bunk bed with the tenant, which would be, and if you do, I would love to hear more about that. Okay. How long does a credit report last? What's the time frame I would have to close by after they pulled my credit? 90 days is what you're going to expect. How long for that credit report to expire? So, if they need to repull, it's not a huge deal. It's really not gonna affect you too much. And oftentimes when I repull somebody's credit, if that time period expires, most of the time their score is increased. And if so, we can usually give them a lower rate if their credit score increased in that time. Okay, so you said it was a duplex. So technically it's a primary residence. And since it's a primary residence, this is a tricky situation. Since it's a primary residence, you would need employment in that state. However, if you purchased it as a secondary home, you could do 10% down. I don't know if you can do that. I'd have to check on a duplex what the down payment would be. Probably be a little bit higher than that. You'd probably be looking at 15% down. But in that case, you wouldn't need to show employment in this state. So secondary homes allow you to get around the employment problem. I'm just not entirely certain what the down payment would be. Let me look that up real quick. Yeah, because your main issue there is going to be the employment piece. I mean, you could purchase it as a full-out investment property if you wanted to, but you'll get a lot higher interest rate than going with a secondary home. Secondary home, and you know what? I think I was wrong. I don't think you can purchase a multiple unit with a secondary home, at least not with Fannie Mae. So you'd probably be looking at doing an investment property. And if that's the case, then the employment thing is not going to be an issue. But with a 2-unit, you're just going to be looking at doing 25% down as an investment. So if you get the employment, you can purchase it as a primary residence, which is going to be a lot cheaper than going with an investment. But tricky situation. A lot of things kind of going on in that situation there. Okay, so go back to your question about nursing. So say, yeah, it could be as low as 25 an hour to as much as 60 hours. So what you're trying to do to show to an underwriter for your employment is you can earn a specific amount on your pay stub. So think like a 2-week cycle. You can earn that consistently over a long period of time. Normally this is like a year to 2 years, especially with income that's going to fluctuate that much, right? You have income that's going from 25 to over doubling to 60. And so they need to be able to see that consistency, that this isn't just a one-off thing, that you can earn that money over a longer period of time. And this isn't just specific to nursing. This is specific to any type of work that has income fluctuations, right? If you're a commission-only employee, you're going to have a 2-year average of income because your income fluctuates. Even if if you're a commission, but let's say you still make $5,000 a month, and you've been earning that consistently, technically it's not consistent income because your employment type is inconsistent. So that's where they need to average that, normally over a period of 2 years. Ooh, when making an offer, should we include our credit scores? I hear agents are asking to see FICO scores with offer. That, I don't know what law, but that's got to be a huge issue. No, I would never do that. And if an agent was asking for that, I would absolutely be taking them to some board that they're a part of. And if I could, I would find, to me, that's not only a huge ethical violation, but also a legal violation. I don't think an agent should ever be able to see a FICO score. I think I couldn't tell you what laws, but just from my inclination of some law classes that I've been in, there's the violation of quite a few things going on if an agent is actually asking to see a FICO score. So maybe catch a minute, cash out on a nice lawsuit. Might be an option there. Okay, I have one car financed and co-signed on my fiance's credit, I'm guessing. but we want to buy a house this year because we live in Colorado. The market doesn't seem to want to slow down. Is this going to be an issue? Having a co-signed car loan isn't a problem at all. I think that's the question you're asking. Does Social Security income survivor benefits for children count as income for USDA loan? Yes, as long as it's going to continue for at least 3 years. So any income that's non-traditional, so things like alimony, child support, survivor benefits, anything like that, lenders want to see it continue for at least 3 years to be able to use it. A good example would be like if you receive child support income and your child is 17 years old, then you won't be able to use that child support income because it's going to expire in 1 year. And often a lender is going to ask for a birth certificate if they see any like children reported as dependents on your loan application or tax returns to be able to verify how much longer the child support would continue. Why do lenders not like USDA loans? Do you in particular make any money on USDA loans? Yeah, we make the same amount of money on USDA. All loans across the board, we make the same amount of money on. So it's actually illegal for us to earn different amounts with different types of loans. That's what's called steering, and that's like a big no-no. You can't do that. So I don't know why lenders don't like USDA loans. I think a lot of lenders just are maybe a little bit confused by them because they can be a little bit tricky. And also there are a lot of areas that just aren't super conducive to USDA, right? Like if I was working in, a good example is like Denver, okay? If I'm working in Denver as a loan officer, it's probably not super beneficial for me. It's probably not a super good use of my time to go and learn a ton about USDA because there probably aren't a ton of people purchasing with USDA. Because the box for somebody to find the eligible property and be under the income limit and qualify is probably pretty low. However, in a state like Ohio, USDA is all over the place. We do lots of USDA loans, so we make the same amount of money on conventional FHA, USDA, VA, non-QM, like they're all the same across the board. So I think it's more of just, it might not be worth it for some lenders. But it's a good program. I don't know why people don't like it. It's probably just because it's confusing. And there's some ins and outs to it. Same thing with VA. There are a lot of lenders who aren't super familiar with the intricacies of VA loans. They tend to just stick with like conventional and FHA because they tend to be a little bit more straightforward and they can understand them a little bit more. There's not as many like nuances to those programs there. But the nice thing about like learning as a loan originator around this area is that you get a really nice wide array of knowledge about different types of programs because we can do USDA and VA, FHA, conventional. We have areas that can qualify jumbo. There's all types of areas around here. Chris, you asked, when a lender pulls my credit, does it reduce immediately? I'm worried that when shopping for a mortgage with multiple lenders, next lender will see a decreased credit score. So it really is going to depend. Most of the time, it's probably going to reduce pretty quickly, but it's going to be closer to like maybe within a month that it actually fully reports on an actual credit score. So keep in mind that when a credit inquiry gets on your report, it's only going to change 0 to 5 points. Okay, most people think it's going to tank, and it doesn't. It's literally going to change anywhere from nothing to 5 points at all. These horror stories of someone getting their credit pulled and then their score dropping is not because of the inquiry. It's you hear people like with my friend got an auto loan, got his credit report run a ton of times, and now his score tanked. That's not true. What ended up happening is he got his credit score pulled, only changed 0 to 5 points, but then he probably closed a car account and then opened a new one. So he lowered his average age of accounts. He increased his credit utilization, opened a new account, increased his debt, all those things happen. That's what lowered the credit score, not the inquiry itself. So inquiries are nothing to be afraid of. You'll be perfectly fine with getting, shopping with multiple lenders. Let me jump over here to text real quick. Julie said, can I qualify for USDA loan if I'm retired? Yep, absolutely. Retirement counts as employment history. You still need to show a 2-year history. So if you've only been employed 1 year, you need to write down what your employer was before that. But if you've been retired 2+ years, your employer is retired. It's perfectly fine. And you can use Social Security that's going to be grossed up. So if you make $1,200 a month Social Security, it can be grossed up to 1.25% because Social Security income is tax free. It's non-taxed. So $1,200 actually gets grossed up by 1.25% to $1,500 a month qualifying income. Okay, Angelica asked, what's the average time frame for USDA from application to close? From application to close, on average, you're probably going to be looking 30 to 45 days most of the time. That's traditionally what I would expect on USDA. Sometimes it can take longer, sometimes it can take shorter. Depends on a ton of different factors, how fast USDA is in your area and how fast the lender is. If there's any issues with the deal, but on average, I'd expect 30 to 45 days. Expect just a little bit longer than something like a conventional loan. Do lenders use W-2 or pay stubs for income verification? Both. They're going to use both types of income documents, which is, I know, it's dumb. The pay stubs, and think of it because lenders want to see all the months of earnings. Okay, so we're in January now, but let's say we were in March. Okay, the W-2 is going to tell me history of what I earned over the past year or two, but it's not going to tell me from January 1 on how much did I earn. Has my pay gone down? Has it gone up? Has it remained the same? The pay stub serves that intermediary part between now and when the W-2 last reported. Would I get approved for a USDA loan or FHA for duplex without employment using the house hack strategy? Not without employment, because they're both going to be primary residence. USDA guarantee does not do duplexes. It's going to have to be a single unit. However, and I'm guessing the house hacking strategy you're referring to is having a duplex. House hacking can do you can do multiple things, and for those of you who don't know, house hacking is just kind of a term used for kind of treating primary residence loans as investment, trying to use them in the best way possible to kind of maximize the income that you might be able to receive from that property. And another house hack strategy that a lot of people don't consider is purchasing a home, living in it, making it one unit home, living in it for a year, and then renting it out. You can do that. You can take advantage of the primary residence without having it being a multi-unit, and then rent it out later, and then go purchase another primary residence. That can be a really solid option for you without having to go through the mess of looking at multi-units, because those can be really difficult to find, especially in this market. What's more important, back-end or front-end DTI limit? Can front be over if back is well under? So the debt to income ratio, I'm just want to clarify for everyone who isn't familiar with a DTI. Debt to income ratio is basically just saying how much monthly debt do we have divided by how much is our gross monthly income. Okay, so if we have $1,000 a month in monthly debt payments that we have to pay a creditor $1,000, maybe several different ones, $1,000 a month, and we make $5,000 a month gross, our debt to income ratio is 20%, right? Did I do that right? I think I did. Is 20% there. Okay. So back end, let me explain front end. Front end is probably easier. Front end is our estimated housing payment only. So if our estimated housing payment, our future mortgage payment, is going to be $1,000 a month, and we make $5,000 a month, then our front end debt to income ratio is 20%. Now, if we're looking at a home that's going to be $1,000 a month plus, we also have, let's say, an additional $1,000 a month in debt. Maybe that includes our student loan and car payment. Or for some people, it's just a car payment. Let's say we have $2,000 total there. Then our back end debt to income ratio is 40%. So our front end's 20, back end is 40. So what's more important? They both have importance. However, most of the time, people exceed the back end much quicker than they exceed the front end. And this is mainly just because, in our culture, people tend to have a lot of debt. And so most of the time what I see is people extend the back end much, much quicker than they extend the front end ratio. And front cannot be over if back is under. Unfortunately, they don't have like a trade-off there. Now, the benefit is conventional loans don't have a front end ratio, which is kind of cool. The back end ratio caps at 49.99%. So then you don't have to worry about your front end ratio there. But other loans like FHA, USDA do have front end ratios. What if you have a lower DTI? What happens if it's not 45%? Nothing. There's not really a benefit of having a lower DTI. The only thing that it might do is help you save money on mortgage insurance. So the DTI is only used for qualifying for the loan, and it's not going to give you any benefit with the rate. Okay, most of the time with most lenders. So whether you have a maxed out DTI or a really low DTI, it's not going to change anything but if you qualify or not. However, mortgage insurance probably will change. Mortgage insurance tends to factor in the debt to income ratio. So the higher your debt to income ratio, the higher your mortgage insurance will be. On something like a conventional loan, the lower your debt to income ratio, the lower your mortgage insurance would be on a conventional. On FHA, USDA, those mortgage insurance prices are fixed and are not going to change based on anything about you. In the process of refinancing a home loan, it's been about 30 days. Our lender wants to pull credit again, but that's going to lower our scores. Our score is good for 60 days. Credit pull would only lower your score maybe 0 to 5 points. Credit scores are normally going to be good for about 90 days. And then double check with them if they're doing a hard credit pull or if they're doing a soft credit pull. Normally when you get a loan, you're going to do a hard credit pull at the beginning, and then they'll repull your credit report at the end, but it's a soft pull. And the only reason they do that is to make sure you didn't go and take on a bunch more debt before you closed on the loan. They just want to make sure you didn't take on more debt. And most of the time it's going to be a soft pull and it's not going to affect your credit score. What does the audit process look like for USDA loans? So USDA is kind of weird in that you get approved with your lender, but then it has to be shipped off. Your loan package has to, not physically, but your loan has to be sent, all the details sent to USDA. And they're going to do what they call a commitment review. You can also think of it like an audit. I like to think of it like an audit. I think that makes it more clear on what they're doing. Basically what they're doing is they're saying, hey, this underwriter approved this loan according to USDA guidelines, but we just want to double check in-house that it actually does, that we're actually willing to insure this loan. So what ends up happening is you can Google USDA turn times in your state. So you could go Google USDA turn times Florida, and it will show you how long it takes for them to review. So then you can know when your underwriter sends the package to USDA, how quickly you can expect it back. And so really they're just double checking the underwriter. If you're working with, and most underwriters are going to be good. Most of the time, I've never had a loan come back from USDA with an issue. It always is just like, yep, we're good to go. But you could run into an issue, or maybe they need something else. They're not going to flat out deny something. They're normally just going to ask for additional information if they do need anything additional. So you said there's a builder in a USDA rural area. Yes, that works. USDA does have a one-time construction loan, or if it's a new construction, you can purchase that with USDA. As long as your income and the area qualifies, you're good to go. Ooh, I said my student loan is $100,000. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, so if you had to do 1%, that's quite a bit to put into a debt to income ratio. Um, that's tough. Had an offer accepted and then got a new lender. 4 weeks later, I get charged $575 from the old lender for an appraisal. Is this allowed? Never signed off on any of the application docs they sent me. You would have had to sign off on something if they got your credit card information. Otherwise, we're talking all kinds of legal issues here. What I would do is just double check with them if there was an appraisal ordered or what's going on there. It probably is something in a system that's automated that kind of went out. I wouldn't get too heated about it right now. At first, let's gather some information, talk to the lender. Hey, I got charged for this appraisal. Can you help me understand why I got charged? We didn't move forward with any documents. I have a new lender. The appraisal didn't happen. And see if they can give you a refund back for that, or whatever to make it right. And then if they don't, if there's some issue that was something that was crossed there that shouldn't happen, then that's maybe where you want to kind of pull out the big guns a little bit. $575 is certainly not worth going to court over, unless you can make all that money back for court fees and everything and more. But maybe the threat of it is worth it enough. So get some information first before you kind of pull the guns out. Allison, you asked if USDA looks at the lower middle credit score, if you're married, would it be smart to pay off debt that shows only on the report of the spouse with the higher credit score? Would it be smart to pay off debt that shows only on the report of the spouse with the higher credit score? Probably not. You'll probably want to focus more on so if two people are applying for a loan, let's say their credit scores are here. One, somebody has a 700, somebody has a 702. We'll put them let's say 680 and a 700. The lender is going to take the 680. They're going to take the lower of the two, and we're assuming these are both median scores here. So they're going to take the 680. I don't want to work on this person's credit to raise it up. Otherwise, I can keep raising this up to 800 plus, and they're still going to take the 680 score. So I want to work on the 680 to bring it up, so that this either becomes the new minimum, or I can at least raise this up just a little bit here. I think that's what you're asking. Let me know if I explained that weirdly. Can we co-sign a home loan, me and my wife? You sure can, absolutely. Is it harder to move to another state with USDA? Are you asking move to a new state and then get a USDA loan? If that's the case, no more difficult than any other loan type. Yeah, and here's a great point here. Going back to the appraisal question, so you do have to sign a letter of intent as an intent to proceed for a lender to be able to charge you for an appraisal. So kind of gather some information, see if there's a bill or if they actually charged you $575. Definitely want to look into that. We recently got a USDA property. How long can we rent it? You can do this after 1 year of living in it. Norma, you said hi. Hello. I'm glad you're here. Check over here to some text. And if you see this number, oh, it's over here. So you can text hashtag live, text it as like an individual text, hashtag live, to my phone, comes in here, right? It's not my cell number, but you know, it's good enough. And then what happens is it comes in, well, two things. I'll be able to notify you next time I go live. And it also comes in on this, let's see, is it gonna show you? Is it gonna do it? It's thinking about it. There we go. See, it says live stream. So it puts you in, on my phone, it shows me all the people who are on the live stream who have texted that in, and then you can text in questions to my phone here, okay? So, and there's also some other stuff. I have like a max purchase price calculator and all that stuff here and there if you'd like. Does investing your down payment funds and going 0% down have higher gains in the long run than equity? You would have if you use the funds for down payments. So you might not have been on the live stream a little bit ago, but within I think around minute 30 to 40, I actually did the scenario, and investing that difference is going to normally get you a better return than investing it in the equity of your home. So I don't know if YouTube lets you go back now, but you know, when this is over, the recording is going to be up. So go to somewhere around minute 30 to 40 and actually put that in. And there's quite a significant gain of going 0% down and investing the money, then putting that as a full down payment. Not COVID, I promise. Well, I think so far. Don't you kind of hate coughing or sneezing now or sniffling? Like I feel like you do any of that, and then you know, people look at you strange. Yeah, Mikey suggested doing a video detailed on DTI. I have a video or two right now about DTI. I think I need to revisit a little bit more. I think I've gotten, you know, as I've been going through this YouTube thing, I think my teaching ability has increased a little bit more. So I think I could add some probably more clarity to the DTI conversation and how that can help out a little bit more. So it'd be good for me to revisit that here in the future. Okay, this is a good question. I believe it's Pai Fong. Do any debts that don't appear on a credit report count in the debt to income ratio? My wife has an agreement which removed a default from her credit report, and the loan is no longer showing on a report, but we're currently paying on the loan. Yes. If you are paying on a loan, it does not matter if it's on the credit report or not. Has to be counted in the debt to income ratio. And this is on when you do a loan application, in the declaration section, you have to report, do you have any debts, you know, that aren't listed on this application? And that's where you would put in, yes, we have debts. You have to disclose things like that, okay? You know, a good example too is like child support, alimony, tend to not show up on a credit report unless they become delinquent. You have to report those to a lender, and I promise you they will find it if you don't report it. And that's, you know, you're not going to run into like issues, you're not going to get in trouble. It just can create difficulty if you can't qualify for the loan with those debts on there anymore. So you know, lenders do lots of third-party data checks where they're, you know, your name is being run across lots of different databases that will flag if there's anything missing in a loan application. So it's always better just put it out there. But yeah, those things will have to be included, and that's a fantastic question. Melissa, you asked a question that a lot of people ask, so this is really good. When determining your monthly debt from your credit report, if you carry a zero balance, meaning, for example, I charge $100 to a credit card, but then I pay it off before the statement closes, which means there's no payment. I'm thinking this would not be counted in my debt or included in my debt to income ratio. That is correct. So if you pay off your credit cards, you're not carrying debt, right? If you pay off the full balance, you're not carrying a balance month to month, then you don't have debt, right? You carrying a balance for a couple days or a couple weeks technically isn't a full debt in the eyes of a lender. So it's actually not going to even report on your credit report, right? Like I have several credit cards I use to just get points or whatever, keep building my credit, and then I pay them off, and they report as 0 on my credit score. So yeah, that's perfectly fine to do that. What do lenders require to verify employment? They're going to verify employment with your income documentation. So, anything from tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. But then what they're also going to do is there's 2 other things. If you're doing something like an FHA loan, USDA, VA loan, typically you're going to look at a verification of employment. This is a form that's going to be sent to a manager, HR, something like that, that's going to detail, again, just basically showing your employment, your income, verified by someone like HR. And then they're also going to do a verbal verification of employment within 10 days of your loan closing. And this is where someone from the lender is actually going to call and try to find some sort of management person and just say like, hey, do they still work there? That kind of deal, to make sure that you didn't get fired shortly before you close on the loan. And then at the closing table, you're gonna have to sign a document saying you still have the employment and all that jazz. So they do check employment a couple times, and it can be really annoying. When COVID first started, lenders were checking employment like 3 to 5 times, like verbal, like they would keep calling the employer, like, you still employed? And the amount of HR people who got very mad at us is very real. Unfortunately, we just kind of had to follow the rules, but yeah, it was not a fun time when COVID first started. If I get approved for USDA loan, can I take that to another state, or do I have to use it in the state that I'm currently in? For USDA Direct, I don't know. But for USDA Guaranteed, you'll need to get approved with a lender it doesn't have to be in that state, but they have to be licensed to work in that state. So if the lender you work with right now is licensed in the state you're moving to, then that's fine. That approval will carry over. But you have to work with a lender that's going to be licensed to work in that specific state, even if you already have an approval with somebody else. My lender advised my credit was too low, but mentioned Gus with 3 different remedies. Could you clarify what that might mean to me? So USDA technically goes down to a 500 minimum credit score. However, when you have a credit score below 640, you can't use Gus, which is the guaranteed underwriting system. So this is the software that USDA guaranteed loans go through. And when you go through this software, if your loan is underwritten through it, what ends up happening is you get access to a lower rate, higher debt to income ratios, and overall an easier process to qualify. If you have lower than a 640, you can't use Gus. The lender can't run your loan through that software, meaning you're going to have, it's normally going to be a slower process. They're probably going to require reserves. You're going to not be able to qualify for as much, and your rate's probably going to be higher. So that's why a lot of lenders actually won't do what's called a manually underwritten USDA loan, which is a loan below 640. Most only want to do Gus approved loans because they're just easier, right? So that's probably why they're talking that way. And it's going to be more advantageous for you to increase your credit score. If they have, it sounds like 3 remedies to this, you're probably pretty close to being able to qualify with 640 plus. So I'd explore those, see how long those timelines look like. But you'll definitely get a better deal going through that underwriting software than if it's a manual underwrite. Is it a good idea to roll over my closing cost into a mortgage loan? So there's only one loan you can do this on, which is USDA, and that's if the appraised value is higher than the purchase price, right? If you purchase a home at 200,000 and it appraises for 205, we can wrap $5,000 worth of closing costs into the loan. The thing that we really have to be careful of is, making sure or feeling like the appraised value is going to continue to stay there. We don't want to become underwater in our mortgage really quickly. And keep in mind, you are financing your closing costs if you're doing that, right? So whatever your interest rate is, you're paying that percentage on that money. So do you want to go pay 3 to 4% on however much you're paying on closing costs? It's kind of up to you. It's going to be better to pay in cash probably, but if it's an option available to you and you need it, certainly something you can do with a USDA loan. What are some common disqualifications for self-employment? Really the biggest issue, the biggest hurdle I see for self-employed people is the deductions that get written off, right? Like I understand that, you want to not pay as much on taxes, but when you don't show a lot of net income in your business, then that's when we run into issues. Because lenders, if you tell a lender, I make $100,000 a year for my business, but on your taxes, what you told the IRS is, yeah, I make $100,000, but I have $50,000 worth of expenses, so I actually only make $50,000. Well, you just told the IRS and a lender two different things. You said to one person, I make 50,000, and the other person I made 100,000. And lenders are going to say, well, you told the IRS. They're way more official than us. You told them you make 50,000. So we're not going to use 100,000. We're going to say 50,000. That's what you said. You said you had all these expenses. So that's the biggest thing that I see as issues with self-employment is you just run into a lot of those deductions. Other than that, there aren't like really common things. It really just comes down to that consistency with the expenses that are happening with self-employed people. You said I'm a Tesla bull. I think you'd better have better returns, but we're a cult. Hey, I like Tesla. I think Tesla's great. Did I use Tesla in my example earlier? I think I did. I didn't mean anything by it. I just picked the only stock I could think of. But I really like Tesla. I'd love to get those Cybertrucks. Cybertrucks are ugly, but man, I would love a good Cybertruck. I'm sure I'd run into things too. Those things are huge. Okie dokie. Let me open up text here real quick. And Jesse, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. I so should have brought some wine tonight. The water's just not cutting it. Jesse, you said the appraisal just came back at value. Cool. Self-employed with a conventional loan, when should we expect to close? If you've done the appraisal, you're probably around halfway done with your loan, I would imagine, halfway to the nearing the end of the process. So anywhere between 50 to 75% done is where I'd estimate you're pretty close to the finish line. Once you get the appraisal and the appraisal comes in good, it's like, oh, okay, we can finally take a breath, because the appraisal, everything can be good, and then the appraisal can derail everything. So when you're at the appraisal, you're at this point, it's probably going to be some pretty smooth sailing from here on out. You said, as a notary signing agent, I'm seeing a lot of COVID-19 employment attestation forms in the refinance packages. They vary slightly, but pretty much say the same thing. Yeah, there's a a lot of those too in closing packages, basically saying like, COVID hasn't infected your infected affected. Sure, infected works too. COVID hasn't affected your employment or income. That's funny. I said infected. My credit score is about 660. I still owe 14,000 on my car. Can I qualify for a loan? Based off that information, there's nothing wrong. Nothing stands out that says you couldn't. And there, you said a lender told you have to pay off your car first. I'm guessing maybe your debt to income ratio is high. If that's the case, then that's maybe why they want you to pay off your car. I've been learning from comments that lenders need to explain things better, because I see a lot of people have comments who they say my lender said this, and then give no explanation. And lenders really need to like explain, what's going on. So you said I just called to call in. So this number here. Oh, what's this side? Is a text in. I can't do calls right now. With keeping up with like DMs and comments and texts and emails, I just can't do calls right now, unfortunately. I would never get anything done. So I do my best to keep up with as many messages that come in, but I can't do calls right now. Oh yeah, Mike, you said sounds like more of a debt to income ratio. Man, Mike, you're gonna have to join the loan origination side here. You got some good old working knowledge you got going on. Yeah, and Don always said you want the Cybertruck. I would love the Cybertruck. I think that thing's pretty cool looking. I mean, it's hideous. Don't get me wrong. Here's my problem with the Cybertruck. Is I feel like you'd get one, you'd be happy with it and everything, and but since they advertise it like it's bulletproof or bullet resistant or whatever, and that you can apparently bulletproof glass or something, even though a metal ball shatters it, I feel like I would drive down the road and people would like throw things at the car. Like I feel like since it's been advertised as this thing that you can go hit with a sledgehammer, I feel like I'd like come out of Kroger and walk back to the car and then see like people hitting it just to just to test it, and so you'd end up eventually having like bullet holes in your Cybertruck, unfortunately. With the Fed buying so many mortgage-backed securities, do you think interest rates will stay around 2% for another year? I do. I think they're going to stay around kind of the 2 to 3% range. I know you can get a 1.99% rate right now. You're going to pay a lot in points to get that. I don't expect we're going to see averages get lower than 2%. I just don't really see it happening. But the Fed has been committed to purchasing mortgage-backed securities for quite a while. So I imagine we're going to stay around the 2% range for quite a bit. I don't expect that we're going to see crazy huge decreases. If we see decreases more than this, then I'm going to start becoming concerned with the economy as a whole. Because the Fed is keeping things low to keep things stimulated, okay? The Fed's goal is to keep the housing market hot. They don't want what they have called in a Fed meeting as like a credit logjam. They don't want all of these issues with people's balance sheets because of COVID and this recession that we're in, and also have housing become a broader economic issue, not an affordability issue. That they're not super concerned about that. They're more concerned about the broader housing issue. So they want to keep people purchasing homes as much as possible, and so most likely we'll see that continue for a while. So my credit's at 620. Should I wait or purchase? Right now, 640 seems to be the golden standard for most lenders. Even though credit score minimums are a lot lower, lenders have kind of artificially raised their credit scores. Not all, but a good portion of them. So if you do get approved with a lender below a 640 score, you're probably going to have a lot higher interest rate than if you had a 640 plus. And a lot of lenders probably just won't work with you if you don't have a 640 or higher. So, 620, it really depends on what's going on with your credit, on how quickly you could raise your credit score, I would talk with someone like My Credit Guy. The company's called My Credit Guy, not My Credit Guy. Like the company's called My Credit Guy. Talk with them. They do a free consult up front. And so they might be able to help tell you what that time frame looks like for you to get to a 620. So, if it's going to take you 2-3 months to get up to a 640 plus, then I personally would do that. I think you're going to save a lot of money in interest in doing something like that there. So first, no stupid questions. Okay, that's what I'm here for. My job is to help you through the questions, wading through this process. So no stupid questions. But since my husband's credit is better, can they use his credit score only, but both incomes be included? No. So if you can't just use one part. You have to use the whole thing. Okay. So if we're going to use both incomes, we have to use both credit scores, both debts. Okay. We can't just pick and choose. Unfortunately, they want to take the whole. Think of it as a person. Where the lender's looking at underwriting the people themselves, and the parts of the people are their income and their employment, and their assets and their credit and their debt. Okay, that's what makes up the person in the underwriter's mind. They're not just looking at these individual pieces, so we can't just present pieces to an underwriter and say approve these pieces. They're actually looking at the people themselves, if that makes sense. Does USDA do land and construction loans? I think USDA has a program where it's just land. It's not USDA guaranteed, and so I'm not familiar with it because I can only work with USDA guaranteed, not directly through USDA. But USDA guaranteed does have one-time construction loans where you can purchase the land and finance the building process as well. You said apologies for missing the start. So what you can do is you can text #live to this number here. I finally got in the right place. I kept pointing over here. You can text #live to this, and I'll notify you next time I go live. And then I also have on my phone anybody who texts in that as well. Their questions come through in this little live stream group. So, but look at income limits for FDA in Georgia. USDA, I'm thinking is what you're saying there. USDA in Georgia, and it's 90,300. Why not attract higher incomes to develop areas? It's just not USDA's goal. USDA's mission is not to develop. USDA's mission is to help low to moderate income households purchase in rural areas. That's their mission. Their mission is not to do development. So that's primarily why they keep that income limit lower, is because they actually don't want that to happen, right? They don't want rural areas to become developed with higher incomes. So that's why they keep that income limit on there. How much longer do you see rates staying low? If inflation really picks up, we may be screwed. Stimulus checks would be awesome. We're degrading dollar value quicker. I anticipate rates are going to stay low for quite a bit, like at least the next 2 years is what I expect. We're going to be around the 2 to 3% range. I do have a video that I'm going to be working on soon talking about how interest rates affect affordability. It's going to actually be really interesting. It's kind of when I was actually doing the research myself, I kind of realized don't get me wrong, on a grand scale, on a long history scale, we have an affordability issue. But on a short-term scale, homes are actually more affordable now than they were last year, primarily because interest rates are so low. It massively decreases the monthly payment, even though home prices have increased. So, again, don't get me wrong, on a long-term scale, affordability issue. Short-term scale, homes are actually cheaper. Not cheaper. Monthly payments are more affordable with those lower interest rates. So I'll talk about that. Who knows? My video to-do list is approaching the 300 video mark, and so I try to get around to as much as I can. And I've been doing How have I been doing? The past couple of weeks, I've been doing 3 main videos a week. I think I'm gonna start doing 2 main videos a week, kind of the like, 7-10 minute range. Those like, here's the educational video piece. I'm gonna try to do 2 a week. I'm gonna try to do 1 short a week, so less than a minute, and then 2 lives. So that should put us about 5 videos a week. So trying to put out as many pieces of info as I can. There's just so much to cover. So trying to get around to it as much as or as quickly as possible. How do you know what properties are USDA eligible? The whole beginning of this video was about that. So you can go back and watch the replay of it. But the first 30-ish minutes talking about all about what homes qualify. In minimum for USDA, there's no, USDA doesn't have a minimum loan. However, most lenders tend to have like a minimum. It's usually going to be around $30,000 to $50,000 as a loan here. Justin said you should start a TikTok account. I do have a TikTok account. I have 1 video on it. You certainly are not going to be seeing me dancing on TikTok. Although, no, we won't do that. I won't subject you to that. Trust me, you don't want to see that at all. I do have a TikTok account. It's at Win the House You Love, I believe. I have 1 video on there. I think I'm going to post the shorts on there from now on. But I have 1 video on there. We'll see what happens. So Norma's followed me. Awesome. I don't know. Maybe if it's helpful, I might do a little bit more on TikTok. I'm just trying to keep as focused as I can without getting too. I don't want to get too spread everywhere, and kind of lose some effectiveness. How's my cat? My kitty cat's good. She's just doing her cat thing. She sleeps all the time. I wish I had that life. She does nothing all day and then sleeps, and then I don't get it. Would Biden's housing tax credit be something you can use upfront as a down payment? Sorry, I blanked. When we get into like the 2 hours of the live stream is when I start losing my mind a touch. The tax credit is something that should have been a talking point for that administration. So far, it has 0 backing to it. So it first has to be turned into a bill. Like there's not an actual bill for it currently, and it's involved in like a bigger housing plan that administration has. But first, it has to be turned into a bill. Then it's going to have to actually pass through Congress. So if that happens, the way that they talk about it, what they've suggested is a $15,000 tax credit. Now, what's interesting is in 2008, the Bush administration did a tax credit. Same with the bled into the Obama administration. I believe it was only $8,000 if I remember correctly. It was like $7,000 to $8,000. And the hard part about their tax credit was you had to front the money, and then you got the tax credit when you filed, which is kind of frustrating because it's like, yeah, it's nice that you get the tax credit, but you had to front the money for it. Which isn't super beneficial. Like it only helps people who already have the money to begin with. The Biden administration housing tax credit has been proposed that you would actually receive the money up front, and there's been no clarification on how that would work. Like, are they wiring money to you? Does it go to the lender? There's no clarification since it's just been a talking point. But their goal would be to make it so that it would be an upfront thing instead of you having to front the money. That way you wouldn't have to wait till tax time to be able to get that. Oh, thanks. You said, yeah, thanks for answering the question. Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate you all here asking questions. And what's really cool about, all of you people here who are on this live stream compared to like, I've watched some other real estate themed focused live streams, and it seems like you all ask really great questions where I can tell like you've been doing a lot of research, which I think is super cool. Some of the other live streams I see are like not they're not as like detailed questions, which isn't a bad thing. But it's just super cool to see like the research that you guys are doing and how invested you are in making a good decision moving forward, which I think is really cool. That a lot of people just aren't doing. A lot of people just kind of going through, kind of getting blown with the wind, and frankly probably making not great decisions or decisions that they might regret. How are lenders going to work around taxes with people being furloughed far as seeing income? I'm a little confused. I'm thinking, like, are you asking how are lenders going to handle, looking at income because of people being furloughed? Like, lenders are understanding that COVID exists, right? They completely understand that. They're not just saying, like, we're going to stick to the normal guidelines. There are new guidelines that accommodate all the COVID issues. Okay, so you still have to go back to a job for a lender to give you a loan. And if it's with the same job, then normally they'll let you get that loan with having one pay stub, two pay stubs, so anywhere between 14 to 30 days worth of work. Again, back at that same job. So as far as that, it's going to be pretty much a non-issue because there are new new rules talking about, like, hey, if somebody got furloughed because of COVID, then we don't have to do the same standards as if they just got they were off work for some other reason. And they're not checking into, like, was it actually because of COVID or whatever. They're not really doing anything like that. Mike, you said, how can I, were other people asking, how can I get a house? I'm trying to think, what were other people asking in other live streams? It tended to just be more about, like general market questions. But a lot of you asked, like, questions that I have to, like, really think through, or like sometimes I have to do, like, research later on because they're more like niche questions, really detailed questions that, like, I can tell you have the language. A lot of you have the language that you know how to ask the question, which I think is really cool here. My husband owes taxes and has an arrangement with the IRS to do auto pay. However, they haven't taken out any money out the day they said they would. Do we have to wait to apply for USDA? You can go and apply for USDA, but you'll have to talk with the lender. Normally, they're going to want to see you be on that plan for 3 months. Is typical. Now, with USDA, that might be slightly different than what I'm familiar with. But talk to your lender about that. Normally, they do want to see a history of that payment, and so about 3 payments worth before you can close on the loan, not before you apply for it. I am in Dayton, Ohio. Good old Dayton, Ohio. It's gross and cold here. I should move somewhere that has some nicer weather. I'd love to move to California, but it seems so expensive, and there's always fires and all other stuff going on. I think Colorado would be a fun place to live too. There's no bears here, plus. No mountain lions, plus. Okay, let me look at some texts here real quick, and then I think I'm going to hop off. We've been here for just a bit of time. Okay, we got all questions answered there. What's the debt to income ratio for USDA? If you go back to the USDA loan requirements video I have, check that out. It's going to kind of cover ins and outs of that with USDA. You can even scroll on the bottom. There's a little, like, timestamp thing that will show you debt to income ratios. Mikey said, I don't and won't have a TikTok. I completely understand that. TikTok can be funny, but it can also be really cringy. There can be some weird moments on TikTok. Yeah, and if you're still here, it's also super helpful if you like this video. We do a theme of, like, we don't smash. We gently approach, ask for consent to like the like button. And then we gently press the like button. That helps out the video a ton, to be shown to other people. If you want to do that, if not, no pressure, no problem. You can dislike too if you want. It is going to hurt my feelings. I will cry later tonight if you dislike the video. But if you want to cause that kind of pain for me, that's perfectly fine too. You know, we'll accept that. Normie said, I'm here for the cringe. Is that on TikTok? Oh gosh. Cringe can be fun. There's funny cringe, but then there's also like I shouldn't be watching this kind of cringe. And I feel like a lot of TikTok can venture in that category where I'm like, where are your parents? Who allowed you to do this? Yeah, we got a dislike. I think somebody took it away though. Cool. Well, I'm going to hop off here. We've been here almost 2 hours and 15-ish minutes. But thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that, not only for myself, that there are people who are like wanting to watch some of these videos. I think that's cool. But I think also for yourself. I think it means a lot for, what you are doing and how you're leading your family into making a better decision, because this is going to benefit you financially, but also I think it's also going to benefit you a lot emotionally too, right? You're learning a ton through this process. You're going to be able to help out other people, and you're taking the initiative that not a lot of people are, and I think that says a lot about the fact that you're here on Tuesday at 10. Or at least 10 here where I'm at, learning and asking questions and taking ownership of where you're at. So I think that's fantastic. Next live is going to be on, what did I title the next live? Let me look it up. What did we call this? What did we call this? Should you overbid on a home? Should you overbid on a home? You want to see a little sneak peek of what we'll do next live? I'll show you a little sneak peek. See, some people jumped off, and if you stayed on, then you were the smart one here. Okay, sneak peek next live. Here's what we're gonna do. Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We are going to talk about overbidding for homes. If I can find this calculator here. And again, you won't be able to have access to this calculator, unfortunately, but we'll run through examples that are going to help out. Okay, so what it's going to allow us to do is we'll run through some scenarios, and I'll allow you guys to text in. I'll show you we can text in and I'll put it in here, and we'll run through some of this together. But we can see, like, if a seller paid $200,000 for a home in 2018, and they're currently asking $220,000. And let's say we bid over asking by $6,000, so we're going to offer $226,000. Oops. Come on. What it's going to do is break down for us when we can expect to receive that overpayment back with calculating local appreciation. Okay, so it's going to help us feel a little bit more confident about, home values are increasing. We have to overbid maybe more than we want to be able to get a home. This is going to help kind of break down a little bit of what appreciation looks like and how that actually helps that scenario a little bit. And again, this is not going to be me. I'm not telling you to overbid for a home, but just showing you what this math looks like, because sometimes we forget about appreciation and how quickly we can earn back some of that money. So that's what we'll be talking about. Again, I'll be showing you how you can text in your scenario, and I'll be typing in all the info, and we'll be running through some scenarios. It'll be cool. We'll get some appreciation graphs. Yeah, Angelica, there'll be some nice appreciation graphs going on. So you'll have a wonderful, safe night. I'll see you Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Text #live to my number here, and I'll shoot you a notification when we go live, and you can ask any questions. Okay? All right. Talk to you soon.